Lights, camera, action. Josh Mason directed and wrote the brand new film, Fight for Me. All proceeds go directly to the Phoenix Dream Center and their fight against human trafficking.
There's usually a lot of neglect and abuse in the home. And neglect and abuse make a child vulnerable to traffickers.
My relationship with my parents was good until my traffickers started isolating me from them.
These girls literally are treated like property, more like a livestock than you would think of as a human being.
What's my name? You know me. What is my name?
How could he do this to me? Why would he do this to me? And in that moment, there was nothing that I could say. There was nothing I could do except for sit with her in her pain and be with her.
Today, I have the honor of interviewing director of Fight for Me film, Josh Mason. Thanks for being here, Josh.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I love your story because you are a church member who got so inspired by what our Phoenix Dream Center was doing that you went out and created a movie about one of the stories. I think that's just incredible. So Josh, tell us a little bit about this movie and what the inspiration behind the movie was.
So I got inspired to make this movie from doing a dream conference. I was serving on the camera team and I was operating the crane. It moves back and forth and I had to set up a shot for a panel that we were doing during the dream conference of 2020. And when I set up that shot, I made sure I was catching the pastors of our church. We also had Brian Steele and I think Sky Steele, and we had the chief of police all on the panel. And when they were talking, they talked a little bit about the church, but then they started talking about the Dream Center and what they're doing with sex trafficking. And that really hit me hard because they started talking, the chief of police specifically, started talking about a little girl who was, underage, 16, 17 years old, who was left in a dog kennel by traffickers who were fleeing a SWAT team. And as they came in, the SWAT team made a single pass, and then a few days later they came back to search the place again, and then they found the little girl in a cage. They took her out of the cage, they got her some food, some water, some shelter, and she opened up a little more about why she was in there, and it turns out that they had kept her in that cage so she wouldn't escape and run away. And in this story, they found out that she was only really brought out of that cage when she was being used as a sexual object for their clients, the sex traffickers. And they think she might have been raped or molested up to 200 times. Well, I'm sitting up on my platform hearing this thinking, I know Krav Maga, I know Muay Thai kickboxing. I want to go out in the street and I want to find these guys and pull them over for a time of fellowship.
Absolutely.
Right? I want to do something drastic, but I had to dial it back, and I did, and I felt God speaking to me, and I felt him say, there's something in here for you to pay attention to. Your anger is justified in this moment because I put that there. And so I was like, okay, I'll listen to that, and I'll go on with my day. So I did, and it was either that evening or the next morning. I came in an hour early, as all good camera operators should do, and I heard the Where Hope Lives choir rehearsing on stage. Now, the Where Hope Lives choir is comprised of survivors who are coping with their past,
yeah.
yes. And so I hear them singing, and they're just powerful. Their voices are so, they ring so much of freedom, and I just had to sit there and listen in the audience, and I did, and I was just sitting forward, and I was listening, and with tears in my eyes, just listening to how powerful they were. I felt God speak to me again and say, I want you to use your abilities that you learned in college and that you've learned here at Dream City Church, and I want you to create a documentary to help the Phoenix Dream Center raise funds for what they're doing for these victims. So I said, okay, and I did it.
And the rest is history.
Yes.
Now you have a film all about that girl's story at the Dream Center. Does she know that you created the story about her?
She does not.
Okay.
She does not.
Well, I'm sure she'll see it someday and just be so impacted by what you've done to help forward her story and help
Absolutely.
other women who are going through sex trafficking. So what were you hoping to accomplish by making this film?
I have been working to raise awareness in the community about sex trafficking as a whole. It grosses $150 billion a year annually for sex traffickers, and only about 1 out of every 100 girls are found and their traffickers are prosecuted. So I was really hoping to use the story to take real life situations of these victims and tell their story paired with interviews that really sheds a light on this in the community at large.
Absolutely. And what I love about what you said earlier is that there was this holy anger inside of you and you wanted to go take matters into your own hands. But what's cool is sometimes raising awareness has a bigger impact than going out, right? And fighting it ourselves. And I think God is using your talents to do more impact than you could ever imagine, because this is going to be a long-lasting film that can be passed down for many generations and so much time. People can see these stories and be impacted. So your inspiration is going to travel through that movie. So what did the creation process look like? How long did it take to make this film?
This film is an independent film. It's not a Hollywood production, so it's gonna rely on the people working on the project for free to get the project done right, and it took us about 1.5 years.
Wow.
So through the whole production phase, through the start and finish, I produced it, and we actually filmed the whole story backwards from where it ended to where it started, and then we added interviews, because sometimes on a film set that's the best way you can time out the film to be shot in a reasonable amount of time on set.
What impacts have you already seen come from this movie?
So we actually had a film premiere for the movie on August 5th at 7 p.m. and we had a pretty good turnout. It was 120 people out of 140, and we raised about $2,000 for the Dream Center. So all the proceeds are going directly to the Dream Center, and they're able to use that film from here on out to reach people that they would go through different conferences or whatever kind of event they're trying to set up. They'll be able to show more and more people. I've actually had several people who couldn't make the premiere who said, where can I see this film? I want to see this film. I want to show people I know. And so we're looking for ways to do that for them in the future.
The cool thing about what you've created is it's something that lasts forever. It's something that can be passed down from generation to generation. You've created a long-lasting story that can be shared. It's going to have so much impact on the community, and it's going to help raise awareness to what is happening right under our noses. Like you said, we don't realize it is right under our noses, and if we are aware, we can help stop this. Thank you so much for what you have done by putting your time, your resources, finding volunteers to facilitate this kind of film. What you've created is going to last for generations and generations to come. You've created a long-lasting impact through this film. So thank you for all you've done. We will keep our eyes open on where we can watch it. We're so excited to see more of it coming out. Well, Josh Mason was so inspired by the Phoenix Dream Center and how they are impacting young women's lives that he took 1.5 years of his own time to produce an amazing film all about it. If you want to learn more about what the Phoenix Dream Center is doing and get inspired yourself, check out phoenixdreamcenter.org.